Yo, yo. Alright, so I've been working on my solo project for about a month now. It's called Stand, and I wanted to do a little diary entry because I feel like this is a nice little milestone. So first thing would be the art. There's a post-process going on here, and I messed with the lighting a good bit. I'm just trying to get them to like play nice together and kind of like help achieve the goals of the art style without jeopardizing, game information or how the game feels. So I still have a lot to learn with both of those, but I think things are feeling pretty good, and I'm excited at where they're at. I'll show you real quick what I mean when I say work the art style. So as you can see, it's pretty, it's fairly bright. It's like normal, but I'm thinking there's going to be like a lot of kind of like lasery type deals and sparks. So still trying to kind of find that balance where the game doesn't feel like dark, but stuff still pops, you know? So that's it for that. Ongoing still with post-process and lighting. I also got some hard surface going on. I made both of these models. These are mine. This guy started out as a low poly licensed mesh that I kind of just like pulled a bunch of stuff off of and threw my own parts on to kind of make it feel like a little bit more savage. It's meant to be like a kind of like heavy-ish laser cannon type of thing. And then this over here, I kind of drew this out with shapes. This is completely an original. So I drew it out with shapes, and then I did the same thing with the parts, but it was to rough primitives instead of something that started as a mesh. And very excited about this guy as well. So I kind of took a material pass at this guy over here, but it was really light. So I'm kind of waiting to get into all that. I haven't really touched effects much either. So pretty much everything you see here when it comes to effects and art is the base Lyra project. Same with like feedback. Like I haven't really brought anything in, with the exception of when the laser shoots, the trail, and the muzzle flash here. That's from a pack. I think these sparks are also somebody. But everything else besides the materials on this guy right here and a little bit of things for the post-process are just standard. So yeah, I think that covers the art stuff. So talk about the weapons real quick because I kind of have like a little pipeline here. I took some time to, I started with the base Lyra project, and they are kind of set up to do feedback on weapons, things like muzzle flashes and tracers. Like this is the base effects. I haven't touched these at all. But there wasn't support for projectile weapons because, I mean, a few reasons. It's kind of a pain in the ass with the way they had it set up. And also, for feel, you generally want stuff drawing from the camera. Like as you can see, like if you step backwards from the crosshair, that's where the camera's located. You kind of want the projectile generally to feel like it's coming from there because that makes a reticle like really authoritative on where it goes. So as a player, it's kind of like the information the game is giving you is validated. And that can be a little tricky in third person because it's a little obvious, you know? And you can kind of cover it with muzzle flashes effects. You can cover it with like the character, like the pose they're holding for the weapon, the locomotion cycle, so that the weapon and the camera are like more aligned. And I didn't really want to touch any animations, especially for like game systems yet. I'll do a field pass at some point, but yeah, that wasn't really in the cards. So what I ended up doing, because you can kind of still, it just feels good when it comes from the gun, but it feels good to hit the shit you want to hit too. So I found a kind of compromise. I'm just tracing. I'm using the normal targeting that a normal trace would do. But if I hit something, the projectile kind of changes the rotation it comes out at to follow the line of the trace from the muzzle of the gun. And if the trace doesn't hit anything, it'll just follow on a rotation from the muzzle towards the crosshair. So as you can see, not hitting this guy, even though the reticle kind of close. But on his head, it's gonna zip in, hit him right in the skull. And this actually works pretty well. This is probably what a lot of games do. I'm pretty sure Helldivers does this. Helldivers definitely does this. But it doesn't really like invalidate your ability to lead targets either, because like I have a little game mode I'll show you guys here in a bit, but like people are kind of running around, right? So if it was too on the nose, you'd end up tracking to a location that the character's not going to be at, or the target's going to be at, not going to be at. So kind of like a waste. This ended up working pretty well, and I think the reason is because I'm really controlled on the trace size. The trace size for the targeting is the same size as the projectile, and that is relatively the same size as the crosshair. So outside of the crosshair, you can still hit him, but it's kind of just like a raw hit. So the projectile itself is kind of forgiving with its hits because the overlap size of the spear that registers the hit is pretty high, but the trace is just on the reticle. So kind of best of both worlds I'm feeling so far, and I'm hyped as fuck about that. I gotta tell you, I have a whole kind of like pipeline going. So basically, all weapons are inheriting from the same thing. They're working the same way. The thing that reads a tracer for a hit scan weapon is the same thing that is the trail effects for projectile. So it's just really clean. It's easy to work with at this point. Yeah. So that's it for the weapon system. There were other kind of Lyra things that started in a state that was, you know, a little unsatisfactory. The base Lyra project for Unreal is kind of meant to just be an example for a multiplayer shooter, and it kind of just assumes any AI in the game are gonna want to be players, are gonna work like players. And for the Lyra system, it depends on pawns having a player state to be able to take damage correctly, like work through the ability system and kind of just like the way things are set up to just work the way it needs to. You need player state, and to have a player state, you need a team. And basically, teams are set up to like the thing that comes out of the box for Lyra, like it's gonna put everybody that comes in on a random team. So basically, I had to get into some code to have the ability to spawn AI on their own team, spawn AI asynchronously, like kind of just do what you would expect and still be able to use the systems that Lyra comes with. It took some code, so I kind of wondered for a while if I was like getting myself into trouble, whether it would be better to start from scratch, but I saved a whole bunch of time by getting like Lyra locomotion cycles, and the way that the anim blueprint is set up is super clean. It's going to be super easy to pass a bunch of stuff back and forth. It's easy to talk to the HUD. Like there's a lot of stuff that is really nice to have. So ended up going down a little bit of a rabbit hole. I'm glad I did, because yeah, it's just working pretty well now. Like pawns can spawn from pawn data. AI will always go on their same team, and the game state is kind of set up to register when people die from a team. It knows when the player dies, knows when the player kills something. It's kind of nice. So these guys are spawned from a spawner. They're spawned from pawn data, and I can assign behavior trees and stuff from the spawner also. It's kind of nice. Like it's still, there's a lot of things that I kind of like, you know, like little nitpicky things that I want to make better over time, but for my purposes now is working pretty good, and I'll show you all what I mean here in just a sec. So I have some game logic going. I kind of have like a mini game mode. It has AI that'll spawn. There's a melee and there's a ranged AI, and they use the same BT. BT is generic, and they are spawned from a data table. And I'm working harder to get kind of everything into data tables as I get more systems online. But these are the first guys that are like their information is in a data table, and the game state spawns them from the data table, and it's yeah, just kind of working as of last night. So yeah, this is a test map for my proto game mode. I kind of have like a lot of questions still about the style of the game. I have a good idea of like, I mean, you're gonna walk around, you're gonna shoot people, you're gonna shoot enemies, you're gonna level up, but kind of like what's the hook, what's the loop, and like what's the challenge that you're facing? I think there's a few different directions to go, so I'm trying to get everything into data and put it all into different experiences, which is another kind of clutch Lyra thing, that it's easy to just like keep disparate types of games separate. So yeah, I'm gonna try out some of the extreme styles of what I have in mind and just see what sticks, but this is the very first one. It's gonna put you in a test map. It's gonna spawn enemies on an escalating difficulty. And as you frag, it'll kind of keep track. There's a number in the bottom left. You might have seen it in the other map, but that's keeping track of how many kills you have. And here pretty soon, when I get around to doing attributes, that's how I'm gonna handle like leveling up and stuff like that. So, alright, this is kind of intense. I wanted to get all that out of the way before I start getting fucked on. Yeah, they spawn. Shit. They're tough, dude. So, oh, it's not resetting the kill count. Damn it! I forgot something. But yeah, so they spawn, and it's capped how many can spawn. But the difficulty is scaling over time, and every time the difficulty goes up, then more enemies can spawn, and it's also checking a data asset to see kind of like what level of difficulty the game is on, and it picks an encounter package based on that. So right now there's only, I have 2 enemies, so there's not much in the way of behavior, so encounter packages are like, a melee enemy and a flying enemy, etc., etc. But I think over time, as kind of more enemies get added, it's gonna be really clutch having that all come from data, because I can also mess with attributes when I have them hooked up in data as well. So if I want to try like a slower paced version of the game, all the information I need for enemies to work the way I want, essentially use the same enemies, but they're scaled with the like parameters of the game, that can all come from data. So I am pretty hyped. I'm gonna run this again. So basically, they just kind of cook. They spawn right above you. I'm using an EQS query to spawn them, and it kind of needs some work. Like they just spawn within 1,000 units of you, and that's only XY, so that's why people are spawning above you and like just shooting you right away. So I'm gonna do a pass at that soon and try to get them in a place where like they're spawning in a way you can see them and they're aware of you. So it's just like it's like action more so than one of the Helldivers bugs coming up behind you, a whole patrol just spawning you never know about. Like that's not the intent, but it's fun for a challenge right now. And they do less damage. They do half the damage of a player. They use a projectile weapon, the player projectile weapon. There's another clutch thing. The player and the AI can share weapons. So they do half damage. They don't miss very much, and you heal when you frag. So kind of the idea is to stay alive. Oh my god. Something's broken with the difficulty. But yeah, the idea is to stay alive as long as you can. And right now it's just try to get like the high score, Shit. Try to get like the high score, and the game mode resets when you die. It's not cleaning up the kill count, which obviously is a problem, but easily remedied. Nice, alright, kind of getting a foothold. You see what I mean? Sometimes the EQS being buggy is the thing that lets you move forward. And they're just like looking elsewhere. Oh, strafe. Still got cooked. Yeah, I'm trying not to get too ahead of myself because I really want to make like just a shit ton of weapons, and like abilities. You can kind of do like one of these already. Oh shit. Melee's one hit kill. But you can kind of like fly up in the air and like melee. Yeah, let me show you. Yeah, so trying not to put the cart in front of the horse, and I'm eating my vegetables first. I'm doing all, the good dev stuff, like getting stuff into data, getting systems figured out. Just doing like systemic work before getting really crazy with it. But oh god, I'm so tempted. So, yep, that's about it. Next steps are the stuff I mentioned, and getting several game modes going, and then maybe I'll do a playtest. So if anybody, I'm gonna need bodies. If anybody comes across this, wants to playtest a random video game, please hit me up. Alright, peace.